What's up, everybody? Peace, peace. How y'all doing? Peace, peace, peace. How's it going? What's up, everybody? All right. What's up, everybody? Peace, peace, peace. How's it going? Let me know that I'm clear. Let me know that I'm clear. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. All right. So I'm going to get myself together. I'm going to give everybody a minute to kind of hop on the live. I'm going to give everybody a minute to hop on the live. Peace, 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 Herbalist 910. Peace. All right. So I'm glad y'all can hear me. All right. Okay. So y'all know I kind of started this thing where I'm using multiple cameras. So if you see me looking another direction, either I'm looking at my notes or I'm checking in with the other camera. So I wanted to go live today. All right. So I'm going to give it a couple of more minutes and let people kind of hop in before I really dive into it. But this live tonight is inspired by the video that I posted earlier to my Instagram and to my TikTok and Facebook. And I posted this video. It's actually an old video. It's actually a video from 2 years ago, but it was right on time. It popped up in my memories and I really needed it myself. And a lot of times when I make videos, especially around, motivational, inspirational type of videos, a lot of times those are messages that I'm leaving myself. It's just I'm sharing it with other people because, hey, people may need a little bit of that inspiration, that motivation as well. So that video popped up and it really registered for me. And I felt like I needed to get a little deeper in that message. So, I decided, hey, let me hop on a live and let me kind of, have a conversation about this. Let me go a bit deeper into it. Let me talk about some things that has been revealed to me, particularly about this topic. Can everybody hear me? I'm good everywhere. Look like I'm freezing a little bit. Is everything clear in the video? Y'all let me know if I'm having any issues. Y'all let me know if I'm having any issues. So I'm looking good over on YouTube, looking good on Facebook. So y'all let me know if I'm good over here. How about Instagram? How we doing? Because I look like I might be frozen a little bit. No issues? Okay, no issues. Appreciate that, 6 points. Well, appreciate that. Shout out to you. I'm glad. I know we spoke a little bit earlier. I appreciate you for hopping on the live. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of hop on up in the topic a little bit. Let me see. So credit, not getting the credit, right? The credit comes later, right? The universe is kind of gonna make you earn it. And that's kind of the price of power. That's what they don't tell you about recognition. That's what they don't tell you about legacy and the number 8. So if you have a 8 in your life path number, this message is very important for you. And it's not just for people with an 8 in their life path, because this has to do with power anyway. It has to do with abundance. So if you're really working on attracting your abundance, if you feel yourself dealing with some things financially, then this is really going to be insightful for you. So while you're not getting the credit that you deserve, not yet anyway. So we're going to talk about some occult truths, some metaphysical and esoteric truths that, can kind of bring a little bit more insight, right? Bring a little bit more insight. Okay. So, and pardon me if I don't see your comment, because I want to kind of stick to the outline of what it is that I'm trying to go through. And at the same time, like I said, I am kind of bouncing back and forth. Peace, Corey. How you doing? I'm good. All right, I see y'all out there in Texas. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right, so like I said, pardon me if I don't see your comment. I'm gonna try and make my way back to the comments and kind of see. So if you drop a question and I don't answer it right away, don't be discouraged by it. I just probably haven't seen it. All right, so as long as ain't nobody talking crazy in the comments, because sometimes people get a little wild. Hey baby, what's up? I love you too. I'm on the live. All right, so let's talk about this thing about credit, right? Let's talk about what I'm really trying to say in that very short condensed video. When it comes down to it, you don't get the credits until the movie is over. When you watch a movie, they introduce you to the characters in the beginning. You'll see the names of who is playing in the movie, right? Or if you were at a play, you will get the names of who is playing each character, each role within that play. And then at the end is when the credits roll, or when everybody is acknowledged for what they attributed to that particular display, right? So you don't get the credits. Even when we think about this thing spiritually, you don't get the credits until the movie is over. This is a metaphor for legacy in life. Just like in film, the credit doesn't come at the beginning. It comes after the full story has unfolded. People do not celebrate the actor when the opening scene plays. They wait. They're going to watch, right? They're going to observe how the character moves through the plot, how the character deals with the challenges that they face, right? And how they evolve and what resolution they arrive at. See, it's a symbolic metaphor because your life is your movie. And the credits, think about the word credit, the credits, the recognition, the respect, the acknowledgement are only earned when that arc is complete. And that's not a punishment. See, we can feel like while we're going through it, we are not being acknowledged for what we are going through. And it's not a punishment. You gotta know how to roll with it. You gotta know that it's all a part of the way things go. It's a part of the process. So it's not a punishment. It's divine timing, right? It's divine timing. The universe is showing us that what truly lasts is built in silence, in secret, in struggle, and not in showmanship. Not in showmanship. This is why all of this is connected to the number 8. If you're familiar with astrology and you understand the 8th house, this is where transformation transpires. This is a house where secrets can lie. And that's because that is the frequency or the vibration behind the number 8, which is connected directly to recognition, credit, prosperity, abundance, and power, right? Now, even when you accomplish a great feat, it feels like nobody applauds you. But see, they don't applaud you until you've done that work already. See, that's when the applause come. They don't come while you're in the middle of doing it. And it's a possibility that it might play out this way. The applause don't come until the end after you've done all the work. If you reach that point, that's when everybody is ready to applaud you, right? That's when that's when that applause comes. And that's because we live in a culture that celebrates results, not resilience, but results. See, most people won't understand your sleepless nights or the sacrifices, the doubts that you had to battle, or the self-discipline that you had to forge when nobody was looking. Why? Because the inner work is invisible. It's invisible. Nobody can see it. People can only see the harvest, not the seasons of drought that you had to go through, right? But just because it is unseen doesn't mean that it's not sacred, right? This is why many spiritual paths teach that you must do the work for the work's sake and not the reward's sake. Because the applause will come when you work, when your work becomes undeniable. And by that point, you probably don't even need the applause no more. So you can't do it for the applause. Because like they say anyway, if you're doing it for the applause, then, if you're doing it for the cheers, then the boos are really going to kill you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So know that they can't see all the unknowns and the obstacles that you had to overcome. They're not going to see it. And that's just the way that it goes. This speaks to the hidden initiations of your soul, because all this is soul work, and can't nobody see your soul. Can't nobody see the path that your soul is on. So this is the initiation of your soul. So what you survived, what you overcame, what you transformed is oftentimes going to go unseen by others, because transformation is internal, and it's internal. It's internal before it becomes external, right? So you do all that work before the harvest come in. And nobody see all the work that you're doing prior to that harvest. So the road that you had to walk all by yourself is never going to be understood by people who only show up at the destination. So think about it anyway. Why would you want their acknowledgement anyway? That's why by the time you get there, you don't even need it, because you've had to endure and go through so much, man, that it doesn't even matter about their applause no more. But it was never for them to fully understand anyway. It was for you to become. See, the dark night of the soul, the ego deaths, the betrayals, the moments that you didn't fold when life really almost broke you, that's the real credentials. They just don't come with a certificate. It's not an external thing that's going to be able to be validated. That's only going to come, that's only going to happen internally. That's only going to happen internally. Hold on 1 minute, y'all. Let me kind of share this. Give me a second. All right. So, and please feel free to share the live. Feel free to share the live. Please feel free to share it. I appreciate that, Corey. I get asked a lot of questions about this chain too, man. It's kind of why I kind of wear it, but yeah, y'all take a minute, share the live, tag somebody that you feel like should kind of hop in and maybe, kind of that's been going through something like this, that's been dealing with something like this, because it can be a lot. It can be a lot to deal with, especially when you feel like you're by yourself, especially when you are on a path that nobody can really understand but you. And sometimes what you have to realize is people don't know what is there until it's subtracted. You know how they say people don't know what they have until it's gone, till the well runs dry, right? This is divine subtraction. See, sometimes your presence, your wisdom, your love, or your contribution, it gets taken for granted until you remove it. We see this with loved ones all the time. We see this with leaders. We see this with artists. Even with the truth, you become more visible in your absence than you ever were in your presence. And that's because people don't recognize the value of light until they sitting in the dark. And they didn't realize that you was the light the whole time. And that's not your burden to carry. That's their awakening. That's what they have to awaken to. That's not on you. That's not your responsibility. You just got to keep doing and being what you are. So you plant good seeds and your reward is going to come in due time. This is the law of harvest. This is the law of cause and effect. Everything that you do or intend is a seed. Always remember that everything you do, say, or intend is a seed. And not all seeds are going to sprout overnight. Some take weeks. Some take seasons. And that's because of the inner work that has to transpire in order for them seeds, right, to sprout. But if you plant with integrity, this is why 8 is connected to integrity also. If you plant with integrity, if your energy is clean and your intentions are true, the harvest is inevitable. It's inevitable. It has to come to you. It's the law. It is law. It is universal law. This is why it's important that you don't give up on yourself, because this is how it is. You may not always reap where you sowed, but you will always reap what you sowed. You know? And even if we look at this historically, sometimes the greatest souls go unnoticed in the moment because they're not here to impress. They're here to initiate. And initiators are rarely understood by the people they're sent to wake up. Your credit might not come with no claps. It may come in how somebody's life changed because of your existence. It may come in your peace, in your alignment, in your legacy. So don't live for the applause. You must live for the alignment and trust that the universe keeps receipt that no man can void. So again, you don't get the credit until the movie is over. You got to remember that. See, your credit, right? And I'm gonna emphasize credit, because we're gonna get into that, because we all know what credit is, what we think of initially when we hear the word credit. Your credit is stored in the Akashic field. It's not stored in the matrix. The matrix, which we can say is mainstream society, right? The matrix gives credit based on perception. Now, look at how this correlates spiritually and even in the financial world, right? So the matrix gives credit based on perception. The Akashic field records truth based on frequency. Based on frequency. So when it comes to esoteric teachings, your every thought, your every deed and intention is etched into the Akashic records. And it's not just what you do, but why you did it. So this means you may go unrecognized by the world, but energetically, you stack in spiritual credit. And that spiritual credit gonna cash out later. Whether that's protection, whether that's divine favor, whether that's sudden opportunities, or even ancestral elevation. The real credit is vibrational, not visible. Not visible. See, in karmic law, intention outweighs intention has to do with outcome. See, most people don't realize that the results that you get in the physical world matter less when it comes to spiritual law than the attention that drove it. That's why someone can do a good deed and still rack up bad karma, because the hidden motive might have been self-glorification, or it might have been manipulation. Always remember, because a bad person can do a good thing, just like in the same sense a good person can do a bad thing. You get what I'm saying? So when we talking about legacy like this, it has to do with Saturn. It has to do with Saturn. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. OJ sent me a message real quick. Okay. So legacy got to do with Saturn. We're dealing with Saturn principle. Saturn governs time, karma, delay, discipline, and legacy. That's why legacy takes time to build. And when you study the occult, Saturn does not reward shortcuts. It tests, it restricts, it humbles, and then it exalts. That's how Saturn works. See, people who get instant validation are oftentimes living off borrowed time or false light. But when you really truly taking the path without cutting any corners, those are the people that are forged in the fire, and they're honored only when they earn it through trial and mastery. You don't build legacy under Venus, you build it under Saturn. It costs you time. It costs you integrity. And it costs you silence. It costs you silence. See, people see the avatar, not the architect. This is, see, most of the world responds to your persona, your mask, your role, not your essence. Not your essence. This has to do with the concept of the lesser self versus the higher self. See, the crowd applauds the part of you that they can understand, which is oftentimes the lesser self. But your higher self often is unrecognized because it does not seek the attention. It creates impact. It creates impact. So the people that move from soul and not spectacle often go unseen until their absence reveals what they were truly doing the whole time. You gotta remember that. Okay, Jazzy Doll, you've been working with 2 clients on this exact same thing. See, we in sync. It's in sync, right? So you have to trust in how you moving. See, this is why people say I'm doing things the right way. That's why it's taking me a little longer. That's why it takes longer. And the reward oftentimes is much grander than you could ever imagine. This is why the 8 is connected to prosperity, to the abundance. So when we look at Hermetic traditions and mystery schools, right? When we're looking at ancient knowledge, initiates were never praised during their trials while they were being initiated. The silence was intentional. It had to be silence because that's to purge the need for approval. You got to purge that need for approval and anchor in truth over applause, because things happen sometimes that may attack your character, which is again connected to Saturn. And when it does, if you built off that applause, you might not make it through that trial. So the reward comes after the mastery, when the student is no longer even seeking it. Because when you in that state, that's when it's really the time for you. That's really when you hold power. The universe withholds applause so it can purify your intention. It's to purify your intention. So again, when we go back to the 8th house, right? We go back to that 8th house, which is naturally a sign of Scorpio. Now, some say Scorpio is ruled by Mars. Some say Pluto. Some say both, right? But when we're looking at Pluto, Pluto rules over destruction. Pluto rules over ego death. Pluto rules over spiritual power that comes through loss. Sometimes you don't get the credit until you gone, because that Pluto energy removes you to reveal what you were holding up. This is spiritual subtraction. Your presence was the glue, but they only noticed that structure after you were gone. That's why sometimes all you can do is remove yourself from people's equation. This is cosmic math. Sometimes you got to subtract yourself from the equation and let them see the value that you was holding. Let them see what they missing. So if you find yourself going through this, it's not that you being ignored. It's not that you're not getting your just due. You just being initiated. You just on a special path, because legacy is built in silence, and applause is only safe once the ego has died. Because if you get it too soon, the ego gonna destroy it anyway. So let's look at credit. Let's look at the word credit. Let's look at the concept credit. In the material world, credit is a measure of trust. So you get given access to money, resources, or goods, all based on the belief that you're going to repay it in the future. It ain't even about what you have right now. It's about what you're expected to generate later. But here's the esoteric truth of it. Spiritual credit works the same way. except the creditor is the universe. The currency is energy, and the collateral is your integrity. So when you're dealing with financial credit, it's perceived worth. So in banking, a credit score evaluates your past behavior to predict future reliability. So you are rewarded or denied based on your record of responsibility. So esoterically, your spiritual credit score is your karmic integrity. How do you handle energetic dips? How do you handle emotional obligations and soul level agreements? If you've been irresponsible with your energy, if you overgiving, if you undercharging, if you manipulating, if you are avoiding, you accumulate spiritual debt. But if you have honored your inner contracts, if you have made amends, if you completed your shadow work, and if you have acted in alignment with your soul, you build spiritual credit. This is how you build spiritual credit. So, how responsible are you? How responsible are you being? How responsible are you being with your energy? This is why I'm always talking about energetic sovereignty, because it's important to understand the role you are playing in your suffering. You think you're doing a good thing by not charging what you really need to charge, but really you hurting yourself. You actually acquiring more spiritual debt that way. See, credit is a form of deferred trust. Both the bank and the universe extend favor before you paid in full. This is why you can experience blessings, protection, and support even while you still healing. And it's not because you've earned it all yet, but it's because the universe sees the trajectory of your energy. It's betting on your becoming. But if you abuse the favor, which can happen with that 8 energy, just like in the financial system, your credit gonna get revoked. That's when things start to fall apart, or you might hit a spiritual wall. Your energy is overdrawn. All right, look, I gotta take some of that back. Let me take that back. You ain't doing what you supposed to do. This is how energy works. Credit ain't nothing but karma in motion. In hermeticism, as within, so without. That also applies to economics. Money is a material symbol of spiritual exchange. If you violate the laws of energetic balance, like cause and effect telling you, like the law of rhythm telling you, you can accumulate a type of karmic debt that shows up in money problems, in lost opportunities, in cycles of instability. See, the most important part is not all credit is good credit. Not all credit is good credit. In the material world, you can buy status with borrowed power. In the spiritual world, only earned alignment is going to hold value. The universe does not reward manipulation. It only rewards resonance. You have to be in alignment. You must be in alignment. So you eights that's struggling financially, you're not in alignment. You're not in alignment. Your money trying to find you. The money trying to find you, but it can't find you because you're not being who you supposed to be. How it's gonna get to you if you being somebody else? How it's gonna get to you? See, occult credit, which is nothing but hidden. Remember, when we say occult, we talking about hidden. See, all your inner work, all your intentions, your reason for doing things is hidden. Nobody truly know that but you. So occult credit is access to real power. So when you talking about secret societies, ancient knowledge, initial traditions of initiation, credit also is meant to access higher levels of hidden knowledge, ritual power, metaphysical influence. So only those who had proven their discipline, their ethics, and their understanding were credited with further teachings. Because what you gonna use the knowledge for? Why would we give you access to higher levels of knowledge when you haven't proven your discipline? You haven't proven your ethics. You haven't proven your understanding. So if you're trying to get into something in the spirit, and spirit ain't letting you in, you got to check your intention. You have to check your discipline. The modern concept of being credible comes from the idea you've demonstrated enough mastery to be entrusted with more. I keep telling y'all, everything in this world is built on the spiritual. Every single part, even the stuff that we don't like. But because it takes understanding, once you get understanding, then you master. I get it. I get it now. That's how it works. That's how it works. That's what you got to do. See, money itself is a reflection of esoteric credit. So currency, if you're looking at currency, the word currency is current. It means energy and motion. So currency flows based on perception of value, but value is spiritual before it's financial. So if you don't believe in your own power, if your own magnetism in your or in your own alignment, your money is not going to believe it either. That's why you must be in alignment. Your money ain't going to find you if you're not in alignment. So when your credit is low, you got to look beyond the bank. You got to look at your energetic patterns. You got to look at your boundaries. You got to look at your integrity. You got to look at your relationship with time, trust, and truth. See, in the spirit world, you don't need a cosigner. You just need a clean soul. See, you get more credit when your energy is clear, when your intentions are aligned and your actions match your higher self, even when nobody is watching. That's why it boils down to integrity. What are you doing when you think nobody ain't looking? Because the universe see what human eyes can't see. You can't hide from the universe. You can't do it. And if you feel better, you can't hide from God. That might make you feel better if I use that. Because it's really the same. Right? So when we get deeper into that number 8, the number 8 is about esoteric signature of credit, of power. It's karmic recognition. So that's why 8 is the number of material mastery. That's why most people that got 8s dealing with money problems. Because 8 is a number of material mastery. It's also about energetic exchange. It's also about cosmic balance. So 8 is ruled by Saturn. That's the great initiator and karmic taskmaster. That's why to really get your riches, you got to make sure you're doing it from something of pure intention. Now, I'm not saying people can't get over and just make money, but is it going to last? That goes back to legacy. Legacy take time, right? So that's why when you take 8 and you turn it sideways, it's the infinity loop. Why? Because it represents what goes out must come back to you. It must come back to you. So you got to be mindful of what you creating. You got to be mindful of it. I'm telling you now. 8 is connected to the law of return. This is credit and karma. So if we looking at it esoterically or metaphysically, credit is energy on loan. And 8 governs the laws that enforce the return. So it's the vibration of you will be compensated based on your energetic alignment, not your appearance. This ain't about no performance. See, you can get over on some people by performing it, but you can't trick the universe now. You can't cheat energy now. So when somebody is in an 8 year or they carry an 8, like a life path, life path 8, whether you're a 178, whether you're a 26-8, whether you're a 35-8, whether you're a 44-8, even if you have an 8 in your energy, if you're a 28-10, if you're a 38-11, you have to pay off energetic debt. You have to step into your rightful power. You gonna earn recognition through responsibility and discipline. You can't take no shortcuts. Get that on up out your head. You can't take no shortcuts. You cannot fake the frequency. Your credit score with the universe is always being audited. So even when you think ain't nobody looking, the universe is taking notes. It's going in the Akashic records. So recognition under 8 must be earned. It cannot be performed. 8 teaches that real power and recognition come only after alignment, integrity, and discipline. When those things have been tested, that's when your power and your recognition come. And when it come. You hear me? It really comes. This mirrors the spiritual concept that you don't get the credit until the movie is over. Because 8 is not a number of luck. It ain't got nothing to do with luck. It's the number of harvest. See, people look at people who made it big. Damn, they lucky. No, they not. You just didn't see what they had to go through. You just don't understand the karmic debt they had to pay off. It ain't coming easy. You can only withdraw what you have actually planted. That's why many people with the 8 energy struggle with delayed validation. They're not meant to get no instant applause. You're not going to get it. You meant to build a legacy. You can't chase no popularity trying to build no legacy. You can't do it. It don't work like that. So when we dealing with 8, it's a bridge. It's a bridge between seen and unseen. 8 sits at the midpoint between the spiritual 7 and the material 9. So it governs the bridge between inner mastery and outer success. So your spiritual credit score under the 8 vibration determines how much power, how much influence and wealth you can hold without self-destructing. Remember, it's tied to that 8th house. That's connected to you. You gotta understand, you don't build no legacy under Venus. You building it under Saturn. And everybody knows Saturn don't play no games. Saturn don't play no games. Saturn is the builder. So if we talk about it practically, understand financial credit is 3D. That's what we're dealing with in 3D. Spiritual credit is multidimensional. 8 is the number that tests your worthiness to be able to hold both of them. Can you hold both? So Saturn, the ruler of 8, is like the hidden banker. Saturn energy can be cold, it can be delayed, it can be lawful. It gives you nothing prematurely. When you study ancient knowledge, Saturn is the one that delays your reward until you're purified. It restricts your access until you're energetically disciplined. It releases power and recognition only when your ego can handle it. You might got some more work to do with your ego. So the reason people don't get the credit until after they have endured the full movie is because Saturn is waiting to see if you're going to misuse their influence, if you get it too soon. That's why a lot of times people will get a little taste of that success, see what they're going to do with it. That's a test. That's what Saturn do, test you. Let me see what you're going to do with it. Let me give you just a little bit. Let me see how you can handle it. Let me see if you really did this work. That's how it works. So 8 governs the cycles of cause and effect. It's energetic debt. It's return on investment. So when you're in alignment, that 8 is going to bring you elevation. It's going to bring you wealth. It's going to bring you lasting legacy. But when it's distorted, it can bring collapse. It can bring exposure. It can bring karmic correction. Recognition under that 8 is only going to come after you have passed spiritual accounting. So you got to do accounting. Hey, where's your energy going? What is your energy? What are you putting your energy towards? What is your intention when you putting this energy out? Because that's the debt you acquiring. This is spiritual accounting. This is why some people might rise slowly, but with stability, while other people might blow up fast, and then next thing you know, they don't fell off just as fast as they blew up. That's why they say fast money ain't necessarily good money. You don't want to get it too fast because it's gonna leave you fast. This is what these little sayings are talking about. The number 8 does not reward the loudest. It rewards the most aligned. You don't even have to ask for the credit when you align. It just becomes undeniable. it becomes undeniable. So you don't get the credit until them credits roll. You don't get the credit until them credits roll. So if you feeling like, if you have been dealing with this lately, if you been feeling like the world ain't clapping for you, ain't nobody, ain't nobody showing me no love, you gotta remember, the ones who hold real legacy move in silence. Because they moving it, while they moving in silence, the universe is building the stage. So you're not behind, you're not being overlooked, you're being refined, you're not being rejected. That credit, that recognition, that abundance that you trying to call in is already on your name, but it is waiting on your alignment, not your appearance. Anybody can appear a certain way. That's easy. That's illusion anyway. That's fake. But you can't fake frequency. Remember that. You can't fake the frequency. It's waiting on your alignment. It's waiting on your alignment. Now, later this week, I don't know if I'm going to do a Friday or if I'm going to do a Sunday, but I'm going to do a webinar, a free webinar now. So it's free. You ain't got to pay nothing. And we're going to look at manifesting. We're going to look at manifesting. We're going to look at if you're manifesting from wounds or if you and not wisdom, why you're manifesting from wounds and not wisdom. Because a lot of times when we haven't done that work, we don't always realize what's at the root of our intention sometimes. So in that webinar, we're going to uncover why your energy field might be still attracting people, patterns, and outcomes that reflect your pain and not your power. So if you don't want to manifest from survival mode no more, or from trauma loops, or from emotional lack, then you need to be on this webinar. Now, I should have the link in my bio by tomorrow that you can, sign up and get the email notification of when it's going to be, how to join, etc., etc. But 9 times out of 10, man, you don't need another vision board. You need a frequency reset. You need to get back to you. You need to get back to the real you. And that's the next place that we going. Now I know I kind of went on a little tangent, little, I didn't look at these comments. So let me kind of go back. If y'all got any questions, go ahead and drop your questions in the comments. Go ahead and drop your questions in the comments if you got any. Peace to you, Royal Minds. I appreciate that love from South Carolina. And yeah, I get that, Flynn 92. When your energy change, you don't care about certain things anymore. You don't want to be around certain people. And yeah, people gonna call you names sometimes too, but you just gotta stay true to what's happening. You're going through something. You're going through a transformation. Everybody not gonna understand it. Everybody can't go. Remember that everybody can't go. As you elevate, some people gonna fall by the wayside. Some people are gonna fall by the wayside. It just kind of come with the territory. And see, that's gonna be a test. That's gonna be a test for if you can handle it. Because a lot of times it go back to them attachments that be the root of the suffering. They tell you that in Buddhism. It's them attachments that's the root of your suffering. Oh, I didn't know that mean, Fox. Credit in Greek, the root means to believe. But I can see why that. I can see that the spell is always in the words. The spell is always in the words. Always. This is why certain things are are said and given the words that they are given. This is why we say these things the way that we do, because again, I'm trying to tell y'all, everything in this world is built on spiritual law. It's built on spiritual law. I promise. Even the things that we don't like, even the things that we think are wrong, you just haven't gotten to a full understanding of it yet. I appreciate y'all that's want to hop on the webinar. I'll make sure to make a post about it, so for sure. So, if this live was helpful, if this topic was helpful, if you know somebody that need it, share it with a friend. But that video from 2 years ago, it triggered a memory. And I said, I need to go deeper on it. There's more to that in the things that has transpired for me over the past few years. So, you gotta be in alignment. So all my 8s out there that's dealing with financial struggle, all my 8s, this is what you want to get into. This is what you want to dig into. I will say this on the page. I will do that. Yes, I will. 2 ones. And I also put it on the YouTube. So I often do that too. Well, I'm actually on YouTube, so it should be there as a live. So yeah. Yes, that art of unspelling, because the spells is in the words. It's literally magic. You're literally performing magic over your life with the words that you speak. So when you saying, I don't got the credit, you gotta dig deeper. You gotta dig deeper. What is that really saying? Because as above, so below. What's going on spiritually is what's gonna go on physically. You understand? So, these are just some things that I came across, some things, some realizations that I felt like I wanted to share. I seen somebody mention 9s. Yeah, I seen somebody mention the number 9 now. 8 is like the cosmic banker. So if 8 would be the cosmic banker, if we talking money, we talking financially, 9 would be the soul accountant. Because 8 would say something like, you get what you earn. 9 is the point where now that you earned it, how will you serve with it? 9 deals with completion. It deals with selfless elevation. See, 9s make up every other number. You done been through every other thing dealing with every other number. So when you get to 9, all you can really do is elevate. So while 8 is about legacy, abundance, recognition, karmic justice, 9 is about release. It's about forgiveness. It's about fulfilling your soul contract, even if you don't get a single clap for it. So when you reach that 9 vibration, you're no longer just manifesting for yourself. You're manifesting for the collective. You're dealing with humanity as a whole when you get to 9. You become a vessel, a closer, a liberator, a finisher of what others may started. This is why a lot of 9s find themselves breaking ancestral, generational curses. Because you're a finisher. You bringing those things to a close. Even if you don't get the credit for it. See, 9 is really higher law, higher spiritual law, and integrity. It's rooted in it. See, 9s, you can't even get away with the same thing that other people can get away with as a 9 because you know better. Because you've been there already before. Now, the paradox, 9's reward is not applause. So you might finally get the applause with the 8 or the applause with the 8, but not with the 9. With that comes peace. You get peace when it comes to that 9. So 8 might ask you, can you hold the power? 9 is going to ask you, well, can you let go of it and still feel whole? That's what the 9 gonna ask you. That's what that's going to test you. So in a sense, to correlate it to what we're talking about, that's what we're going to deal with the 9. Right? Yep, what goes around comes around. It goes around, comes around. Somebody asked about the 4. Did somebody ask about the 4? I saw somewhere someone on the 4. Someone said they're a life path 4. So when we talk about 4, that's the one everybody gonna depend on. So even if you're not getting no applause, everybody gonna depend on that 4. 4 is the builder. 4 is the architect. That's the spiritual mason. So 4 is gonna hold that vibration of structure, stability. You the one that's gonna build out the structure. You the one that sustains the structure of what's gonna be good for us in the long run. So you create the stability, you create the order, right? So 4 is earth energy. Remember, Saturn resides over the earth, Capricorn, right? So Saturn is Saturn's bricks and blueprint. If anybody was to do the blueprint, it's the 4. It's the bones. That's the 4 energy. So without the 4, the house can't stand. Without the 4, the 8 can't rise. Without the 4, the 9 has nothing to complete. So when it comes to 4, understand you'll do the most work and get the least recognition until the structure you built starts to crumble without you. So 4s are often the ones that hold families. It usually got to do with family. What do the 4th house rule over? Family. It rules over your roots, right? It's at the very bottom of the chart. It's at the very bottom. It's what everything stands on. That's the 4. So it's going to hold families together. It's going to hold businesses together. It's going to hold teams together, even spiritual movements. But they don't always realize the power that is in their consistency. It ain't about your charisma like you might want to think it is. It's more about your consistency. 4 is about process. You can't skip no steps now as no 4 now. The same thing with you 4. You can't skip no steps. You're going to have to repeat it. So that 4-pack can feel heavy. It can feel heavy sometimes because the foundation carries everything on its back and it still has to remain grounded. So you might not see the legacy, but you will be the basis of what the legacy is built on. And 4, I gotta say to y'all 4s, y'all can forget y'all role. Y'all can forget how sacred it is. So y'all can get bitter. Y'all can get burnt out. Y'all can get bored because you seeking credit in a role that was never about applause. It's never about applause for y'all either. It's always gonna go back to alignment. This is true for everybody. It's always about alignment. You cannot fake frequency. Energy, you can't fake it. So if you are 4 and you watching this, you're not invisible. You're essential. You may not get the credit now, but one day everybody's gonna point back to your hands and they're gonna say, you the one that held it all together. This is what comes with that 4. When I'm looking at 7, somebody asking about 7. We got somebody asking about 3. Somebody asking about 5. All right, we can take a minute. We can kind of go through these. We can kind of go through these a little bit. Now I can't promise y'all I'm gonna do every number, right? Now 7, we'll do 7 and then we'll do 3, right? 8 is credit, 9 completion, 4 is foundation, right? Let's talk about 7. 7 is the seer. 7 is the sage. You're like the spiritual analyst for when it comes to 7. So 8 is out earning credit in the world. 7 is the one that's doing all the studying, that's doing all the stuff behind the scenes that don't require nobody else. Calculating, you don't see 7 out front because 7 does not need a stage. 7 needs solitude. 7 like to be to itself. 7 needs stillness. 7 needs the unseen. This is why 7 seen as the spiritual mystic, because it needs the unseen. So in the occult world, 7 is like the divine investigator. 7 governs sacred studies, spiritual awakenings, metaphysical law, the hidden mechanics of reality. 7 is the number of initiation through isolation. That's the inner work that nobody clapping for, but everybody is dependent on it. when the world starts to crumble. That's the 7. 7 builds soul intelligence. 8 is gonna get to that success. 7 is that soul intelligence. But here's the thing about it though. Because 7 is so inward and so spiritually focused, it often feels unseen, unappreciated, and a lot of times misunderstood. I see this so much with 7s. And that's because the world rarely values what it can't quantify, but the universe does. So 7 gets credit through clarity, it gets reward through realization. It's not about applause, it's about accessing the truth behind the illusion. 7 is a truth seeker. So to the 7s out there, you might not feel like the most popular. You probably don't even really like being around a lot of people, but you are oftentimes just as essential, because when the light goes out in other people, you the one that they come looking for. And that wisdom that you have cultivated in your isolation, in your solitude, right? That wisdom you've acquired in private, that solitude that you endured, that was your credit. That was the initiation, because 7 is about going back to the source. That's that 7. I did do 9 already. Tapped into it for you just joining. I did do the 9 already. I did. So you might have to kind of go back and kind of get that one. Now, 3, divine communicator, the artist of frequency. You dealing with art, the artist. You dealing with the expresser, the one that can express. And the beautiful paradox when it comes to 3, even though 3 looks like it's the most seen, it often feels the most unseen beneath the surface. It feels the most unseen beneath the surface. So 3, you got a gift in that expression. It's connected to that throat chakra. But the thing about that 3, in alignment, you're dealing with voice of the divine. You're dealing with the expression of the soul. You're dealing with the child of the cosmos that came to turn vibration into vision. So it governs communication, creation, charisma, joy, right? But not the surface kind. It's about real joy, sacred joy that heals trauma and reprograms reality. So on the outside, 3 looks like it's getting the attention. It looks like it's getting the claps. It looks like it's getting the compliments. But the real truth of it is 3 rarely gets credit for the depth that they carry. And that's because the world often confuses their lightness for lack of substance. It's hard for 3s to get recognized for their depth. So what people don't see is the grief behind those gifts, the shadow behind that sparkle, everything you went through in order to be able to uplift people out of their darkness. They don't see the overthinking behind the artistry. See, 3s often perform their healing before they complete it. That's the issue with the 3. And that's because expression is the medicine. And when a 3 does not feel safe to express, what do? They shrink. They doubt. If you don't express, you become depressed. 3s will lose their voice in that noise. And a lot of times 3 have to reclaim their voice. But the credit for a 3 does not come from applause. It comes from authenticity. Because it's so easy for you to be recognized for what's on the surface, for what's shallow. That's why 3 is connected to beauty. That's why 3 is connected to beauty. You got to think about it. If you're beautiful, it's easy to be acknowledged for being that. But damn, you could be more than that. They want to be acknowledged for more than that. They want to be seen for more than that. And so when you finally stop the performing, you start channeling. That's why artists are channelers. That's why they're connected to the divine voice. That's why what they create is so spiritual. Because you start to channel, something shifts. You stop creating for approval and start creating from alignment. And that's when that real magnetism happens. So to any threes, you got to know you are the reminder that the universe speaks, whether it's speaking through color, whether it speaks through rhythm, whether it speaks through metaphor, whether it speaks through laughter. Your words will rearrange people's emotional DNA. That's why you can motivate people from out of their worst place, because there is power in your expression. You literally can rearrange people's DNA. So don't let the world that misunderstands your depth make you doubt your divine role. Because the real credit is how many people you heal with your truth. Even if they don't never tell you. Ain't no telling how many people you inspire. That's why you just got to keep doing what you're doing in alignment. And it's going to come. You're going to get that recognition. That's how it's going to come to you as a 3. That's how it comes to you as a 3. Okay, peace, Spencer J. I see you. Y'all let me know if y'all have any having any issues on the video. I'm getting some feedback that some people can't see. So y'all let me know that you can see. Let me know. Let me know if you can see. So 5 is the wild child. Okay, you can see me, Lenny. I appreciate that. 5 is the wild child. 4 is structure. 8 is power. 7 is wisdom. 3 is expression. 5 is the disruptor. 5 is the one who breaks the matrix to make space for something new. Now, what come with that can be conflict, though. So I'm gonna tell you about. I'm gonna go ahead and give you that off rip so you can understand that sometimes breaking that matrix creates conflict. So be mindful of that. So 5 is like a frequency hacker. He's a change agent. This is like a storm in human form. So 5s can always feel like they so much, yo. They can feel like they too much. They can feel like they drama queens or drama kings. But that's because 5 did not come here to maintain the system. It came here to break it. It came to break the system. So 5 rules over freedom. It rules over chaos, movement, alchemical change, and sensory experience. You got 5 senses. So it rules over experience. So indulging can be a problem for y'all. Y'all can always do too much because you heavy in your senses. So 5 is Mercury in motion. That's why y'all can be scattered, be all over the place. It's the trickster. It's the rebel, the revolutionary. Shout out to Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a 5. Look at all the things that Malcolm X experienced in his life, right? It's also self-discipline too. It's also self-discipline because you got to learn self-discipline because it's so easy for you to indulge. So easy for you to scatter, right? So the shadow side of that 5 rarely get credit, right? Until your absence is louder than your presence. So a lot of people ain't gonna see it with y'all. They're not gonna see the gift that you bringing until you're gone. Because 5 challenges comfort zones. You trigger systems. A 5 can walk in a room and shift the energy. And it's not to destroy it, it's to liberate. That kind of energy, a lot of times, is feared before it's appreciated. So you're going to deal with some friction. You're going to deal with some chaos a little bit. Oh, wait. Having an issue on one of these. Okay. All right. We good. So 5s can get mislabeled as inconsistent, impulsive, unstable, but really they just coded for divine evolution. But if 5 doesn't master their energy, they become addicted to movement without meaning. That's why you can find them just doing a lot of stuff. That's why a lot of 5s can be travelers. I mean, big travelers, always moving around. See, they can bounce from one thing to another, trying to find purpose when the purpose was within the disruption the whole time. So the unawakened 5 is reactive, but the evolved 5 is the revolutionary. And when a 5 learns to channel that chaos into conscious change, that's when the credit comes for a 5. Not just in the form of recognition, but in the ripple effect in how many systems, people, and patterns that it can set free. The 5 is the one that want to set you free. So to the 5s, you like a permission slip that the world didn't know that it needed. You giving folks permission. Your presence, that's what your energy do. So your presence might stir things up sometimes, but it's gonna shake because it's shaking people awake. You know, when you wake somebody up, you gotta shake them. That's a 5. So you gonna get the credit, but only when the dust settles and everybody can see what happened and see the change that has transpired. Because freedom don't feel good at first. That's why so many people don't want freedom. That's why they don't want it at first, because it don't feel good at first. But you the one that's gonna make it feel worth it. That's what you're gonna do as a 5. That's what you're gonna do as a 5. Yeah, Spencer, we're talking about life paths currently. We initially started talking about 8 in terms of karmic credit, recognition, not getting the applause, right? That's what we're talking about. So now we kind of talking about life path numbers specifically in relation to the topic. So that's hold on, y'all. I'm having an issue with my feedback. Let me know my feedback good, or if you can't hear me, make sure y'all let me know in the comments. Let me know. It is kind of like astrology, but in numbers. It's connected. That's why you have 12 as such a significant number in astrology. It is based on the number 12 system. Kind of like the same thing. Somebody asking about the pendant. It's a goat. When we talking about goat, okay, like think about like Capricorn, right? Capricorn is the goat, but it's the goat as an initiate who climbs. You know, goats can climb. It's like they can defy the rules of gravity, right? So in astrology, the goat, specifically the sea goat, if you get into it, the goat symbol of Capricorn can represent a disciplined soul on a sacred climb. It can represent mastery of the material realm. It can represent karmic responsibility. It can represent self-governance, right? So a goat doesn't leap, it climbs. So it teaches that power is earned and not given. It's ruled by Saturn. We talked about Saturn. It's the planet of discipline, delay, karmic reward, right? So the goat is the alchemical worker. It rises from the depths, which is why you got the sea goat. So it rises from the depth, the sea tail, into mastery, the mountaintop, right? Some people mention that Baphomet. Understand, Baphomet is a goat. It's like sacred. In Western occultism, you know, that's the horn figure seated in the meditative pose, representing balance of opposites, male, female, light, dark, heaven and earth, higher and lower, right? It's about it represents integration of shadow and spirit. So it's bringing two together. So I know a lot of times people want to, you know, get into, is it demonic? But it's more initiatory. It guards the threshold of true power. It requires those who seek truth to confront their shadow. This is why it's symbolized the way that it is. This is why it's oftentimes made to be something to fear, because it is a veil, right? So if you are afraid of facing that shadow, it's not for you to cross into certain particular things, right? So it requires you to confront your shadow. It requires you to confront your desires and deal with your inner polarity before you can cross over into the higher world. So the GOAT says only those who master both instinct and intellect may pass. So if you can't deal with the veil, it ain't for you. Now, the GOAT is also the scapegoat. It's not a coincidence that the word is scapegoat, right? Because it bears the burden. It's the burden bearer. So the term scapegoat comes from an ancient Hebrew ritual where a literal goat was cast into the wilderness, symbolically carrying the sins of the people, right? So esoterically, this speaks to the projected shadow, casting blame onto something external. This is why the devil is so much depicted like a goat. This is why so many people will say it's the devil, because esoterically, it carries the burden of being to blame. So it casts blame onto something external so the collective doesn't have to face its own darkness. This is why the devil was created. The devil was created to in a terms of religion, because religion is exoteric. It wasn't always that way. Now, when you do your study, you realize the further you go back, the more esoteric it is, or the esoteric systems that most religions today are actually based off of. So the devil was created to be a scapegoat, to be the one to bear the external blame for the collective. So this is why you get a lot of occult people saying it always comes back to you. It always comes back to the self. You always have to reflect back to self, because you come out of that space of externally placing blame. So spiritually, the scapegoat architect represents the wounded light worker, the misunderstood rebel, the exiled truth teller. So in shadow work, the goat is often the part of ourselves that we exile, that we judge, right? Or even that we fear, until we learn to reclaim it as something that is sacred. You know, you just kind of got to do your study on it. You know, it comes with that. And that understanding. Everybody not at that level though. That's not for everybody. So it's not why it's something that I like to build on so much, you know, in the open spaces. I kind of reserve that for people who really specifically want to get into that, because that's something that people still fear. They're not ready for that. They're not really ready for that. Even if we want to talk about Pan, the goat god Pan, the embodiment of freedom and rebellion. So that's Greek mythology, the goat being connected to Pan, the half man, half goat god of the wild, being connected to raw sexuality, uninhibited nature, rebellion against societal repression, right? This version of the goat represents a liberated root chakra. It's primal, untamed, magnetic. To embrace the goat is to embrace your wild power without shame. This is what shadow work is. This is how you do shadow work. You confront your shadow self without shame. This the shame that makes you bury it, not realizing the parts of you that you bury along with it. This is why we are not whole. This is how we are all Humpty Dumpty trying to put ourselves together again. So in alchemy terms, when we're talking about a goat, it's earth, it's manifestation, it's transmutation. So in alchemical symbolism, the goat correlates with earth energy. Again, we're talking about earth, because remember, earth is the physical. So everything pertaining to the physical got to deal with earth. But it's not about a passive earth. It's activated, it's manifesting. So it's the creature that survives where others cannot. This is where you turn scarcity into strength. It's talking about an earthbound soul who uses the physical world for spiritual evolution and not imprisonment. The goat is the guardian of elevation. If you can't face the goat, you're not ready to go there. And that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly fine. But everything isn't for everybody. Hey, what's up, baby? So you must climb. You must transmute. You must integrate instinct and intellect. You have to integrate. You can't just be straight instinct now. That's an animal. You can't just be straight instinct. You do need some intellect. You have to put them together. I appreciate the gifts over here on TikTok. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. So that's why the goat is both feared and revered, because it teaches you that you don't ascend by denying the beast. You ascend by taming it. That's you. You must tame it. Because remember, that's what the scapegoat was created for. It's magic in the words, y'all. I'm telling you, the spell is in the words. It is in the words. So this live kind of went on a little longer than I kind of anticipated. But anybody who wants to know how to get your life path, just add your birth date. Take your birth date, all of the digits, and individually add them up, and you will come to a number. So my birthday is 9/5/1987. I know I don't look like I'm 37, going on 38. So if I add up all my digits, I get 39. You add 3 plus 9, you get 12. You add 1 plus 2, you get 3. So somebody like me, I got a lot of numbers. I got a lot of things that I have to work through. Being 3, 9, 12. And that 12 is 1 and a 2. So all the numbers, that's how we do the numbers. We look at all the numbers because they all play a role. So that's your life path. Now there's other means of numerology. You got a soul number, you have a essence number, it's numbers connected to your name. So there's a lot when you're talking about numerology. I do intend to place to share it, to post this live. I do intend to do that. So if you missed anything, you can always go back. I appreciate you, KR the Crucible. I appreciate the rose. Thank you for the gifts. Now again, we doing this webinar Friday or Sunday. I will let y'all know for sure what day we're gonna do that webinar. Right? Completely free. You don't gotta pay nothing. You don't have to pay nothing for this webinar. It's why you are manifesting from wounds and not wisdom. So in that webinar, we're going to uncover why your energy field may still be attracting people, patterns, and outcomes that are reflecting your pain and not your power. I kind of been doing a lot with power lately, So a lot of my posts have been kind of connected to power. So hop on that live. Hop on that webinar. Be sure to sign up for that webinar. I will share a post for y'all tomorrow. As a reminder I will put the link in my bio. It will be available in my Linktree bio, in my Linktree link in my bio by tomorrow. And if you are watching this on TikTok, I will share the whole live. You can watch the whole live on my YouTube. So you can find my YouTube channel, Cosmic Paradox. For you all on YouTube, I appreciate y'all for being here, because I oftentimes don't always go live on YouTube, and I know that that's something I need to incorporate more. So I appreciate y'all for hopping on. I appreciate y'all on Facebook too. And it's not that I be forgetting y'all. It's just when I do a live and I kind of get the going, I don't always have it to go to those other different platforms. Maybe I should work out a schedule, but I'm kind of thinking I'm going to keep doing it this way, using multiple sources so that I can do it at the same time. That's just way more convenient, because it kind of can. That's a lot, y'all. It takes a lot of energy out of you when you dealing in this type of thing. It can be like that. So, and in the meantime, also, if anybody out there, if y'all looking for, want to connect with me on speaking, I'm open for that. I'm available for that. Just reach out to me and we can work something out. We can figure out how we're going to go about that, for sure. And I appreciate y'all comments. I appreciate you all's engagement, all your recommendations, letting me know how I can get better at doing what I'm doing. So I appreciate it. It never goes unnoticed. I appreciate that. So we're gonna wrap up this live, but yeah, the next step after this, look for that webinar. Look for that webinar. And I love y'all, man. I appreciate y'all. I see each and every one of you. Know that your credit is coming. Know that it's coming. It's not being unseen. It is not being unseen. So stay grounded, stay aligned, and stay cosmic. I appreciate y'all. Peace.